All right, today I wanted to talk about how John Mayer uses the 10 years decade pedal, because this is a pedal that we've seen on a few boards at this point in time, and I want to make sure that the right kind of context and how John is using it is out there, because a lot of the time you see new pedals get placed on John's boards, then it's like, oh, is this the new key to his sound? Is this, really making a big impact on his tone and things like that? And sometimes, yes, that is the case, and other times it's kind of just something he's experimenting with, and the best way for him to understand if he likes something or not is going to be using it in a live context. So this is a pedal that I feel like I haven't really talked about on the channel that much, and I wanted to make one video kind of going over everything about it, how John is using it, the context with examples of him actually stepping on it and using it, so that you guys can understand if this is something you might want to add to your own John Mayer inspired pedal board and check out. So to start off, the 10 years decade is based off of the Peavy Decade amplifier. It's basically got a lot of, it's really well known because Josh Homme has used it in the studio with Queens of the Stone Age as kind of like a tone secret. It's kind of where this amplifier's got a little bit of its kind of legendary status, so to speak. And then 10 years essentially took that amplifier and made it into a pedal format, basically making a amp in a box kind of sort of thing with the decade. So that's what the 10 years is based on. Now, this pedal is extremely hard to come across. They only make a handful of them a year. They release them in batches, where if you basically watch their Instagram story, if he posts that he's got like 10 up, you have to go in and grab it within like a minute basically, or else it's sold out. So this pedal itself is extremely difficult to actually track down, but Peavy do make now basically the exact same concept. They just took their own amplifier. Now they make it in a box as well, because there's clearly demand for it. So there is also the Decade Preamp Effects pedal right from Peavy, which has exact same layout, basically, does essentially the same thing. They're slightly different, but they're basically, doing the exact same thing. So the 10 years, very hard to find, can be a little bit expensive on the collector's market depending. The Peavy is readily available, so here, those are just some options to kind of do this thing, give you guys a bit of an understanding as to what we're talking about first, before then talking about how John is actually using it, because John using the 10 years decade to me is pretty surprising, because this pedal is basically what he's using live to get the Last Train Home lead tone. The lead tone that he got on the album was very different and very unique compared to a lot of the lead tones we've heard from him before, mainly because he utilized the Soldano SLO 100 for that tone, the lead channel specifically with a Boss CE2. That is the studio sound for Last Train Home into a Silver Sky, assuming obviously. So for John to actually utilize a pedal that's not based on the SLO 100, I always thought was a little interesting, but clearly he's loving it and he is getting really great tones out of it. Now, when I say that this is what he's using live and nothing else, it's because that's literally it. John uses this pedal for Last Train Home for the lead sound, and then he doesn't use it the rest of the night. From everything I've seen, from everything I understand, that is why this pedal is on his pedal board. It's simply to do the lead tone for Last Train Home, and because it's usually the first song he'll actually perform, what happens is Jeremy, when he's got the pedal board actually set up, it's already turned on with the CE2, so you never actually get footage of him stepping on it, and there's not that great footage out there, but I have some footage thanks to my friend Alejandro, who I was kind of asking, we were chatting about this a little bit, and he was able to help me find some footage of John actually stepping on the pedal and turning it off at the very end of the solo. It's really, I think, between him and I, the only example we've ever actually been able to find. So at the end of that solo, you see John turn off both the Boss CE2 and the 10 years decade. That combination, that is his live tone for Last Train Home. Basically, you have those two things, you can get pretty close to approximating, of course, depending on your guitar and amplifier, things like that. But as far as pedals are concerned, really, you know, that's kind of the main combination there that you're looking for. Now, I do think it's really surprising because Soldano actually make an SLO 100 amp in a pedal format. And because that's literally based on the amplifier that John actually recorded it with, I've always kind of been thinking, you know, I wouldn't be totally surprised to see John actually using this pedal for Last Train Home instead, but he seems to obviously be really liking the 10 Years Decade and sticking with that, at least based on the 2025 festival pedal board that he had, because that pedal was on it for that pedal board, and then as well for the Power of Love Gala performance that John did for Last Train Home, he did have the 10 Years Decade on that pedal board as well. Ever since the 10 Years Decade got added to the board kind of in the Sob Rock tour, he didn't start off with using it. He was kind of using his more traditional gain stacking combination for the solo. But then once he switched to the 10 Years Decade, he basically, that's been the live sound for Last Train Home going forward. So what I want to make sure is in the context of Mayer's sound, because I know people, like I had someone comment, I'll throw it up on the screen, where is using it as part of like the third stacking overdrive kind of concept that we talk about a lot. No, it's literally just for Last Train Home. So if you're kind of wanting to focus on, you know, doing something to replicate John's main lead tone, this is not something you need to really consider at all. If you're really wanting to be very specific and nailing the Last Train Home sound, then it's definitely something to look into. Like I've said, the 10 Years Decade is very hard to find. You don't need the exact one that John is using. The Peavy one is out there. You can even try the SLO 100 pedal and see how that sounds. Or if you just use the main John combination of like a TS10, Tube Screamer type pedal, whatever it is, doesn't need to be TS10, into some sort of Klon Centaur style pedal, you know, boost it maybe with a katana or a clean boost or something, you're gonna get, you know, a very good tone with some chorus on it anyway. So it's not something any John Mayer fan definitely needs, but I just want to make sure that the correct information is actually out there within the context of what John is actually doing with this specific pedal. So at this point in time, because we did see the 10 years being used for that 2025 festival run that John did with his full band, I'd be willing to bet that the 10 years would be on his next main pedal board for the tour that comes with the inevitable album we're hopefully getting soon, you know. Hopefully 2026 we start to hear some new music, maybe a tour in the back half, 2026 going into 2027. I'd be willing to bet that the 10 years would probably be in the mix just to do that sound, unless John does switch it up again. But at this point, it's been pretty consistent as to what he's been using live, so I don't really feel like there's a huge, you know, thing for him to switch it up now at this point. Like that's kind of the live sound is that Decade style of amp, you know, tone within that pedal. So I'd be willing to bet we'd probably see more of this pedal as well on his board, but it's just kind of cool. It's one of the more recent additions to John's pedal board that's been something new and very consistent, but it is extremely specific in doing that one thing and doing that one thing really well in the context of John's sound. But that's what you got to keep in mind too, is that he's going for a very specific lead sound that is different from his regular tone. He's going for that more kind of 80s aggressive amp style in terms of the gain, the saturation, the punch that it has with the chorus. It's a very specific sound that he is going for. I'm sure if you got it, you'd get lots of other great uses out of it, but within the context of John's sound, just always keep in mind this thing is doing a very specific job because it has a very unique and specific tone to it. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the channel, you know, this video, just going over the 10 years decade. Is something I just wanted to touch on because we saw it return again for that 2025 festival run pedal board, and then I just wanted to make sure that, okay, let's actually discuss it, how John is using it, just to make sure that people kind of get what it's there for in the proper context. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. As always, take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one.
way, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.